Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Private Brodie Murphy. We warmly welcome the delegation representing the Royal Australian Naval College, HMAS Creswell, Waller Division. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students from Norwest Christian College, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Corporal Roderick Francis Macdonald. Roderick Macdonald was born in Perth on the 7th of April 1896, the second of two sons born to Donald and Nora Macdonald. Roderick's father died when he was still young, and Nora moved with her sons to Adelaide. Roderick attended North Adelaide Public School, and by the time the First World War began, was working as a warehouseman, in all likelihood with his brother Alexander. Roderick had also been serving in the militia with a local artillery unit. 18-year-old Roderick was keen to enlist, and on the 22nd of February 1915, he went to Keswick Barracks and joined the Australian Imperial Force. After a brief period of training, he joined the 27th Battalion and was allotted to C Company. He embarked from Outer Harbour, Adelaide, with his battalion on the 31st of May aboard the transport ship Geelong. After a further period of training in Egypt, the battalion was sent to Gallipoli, arriving at Anzac in September. While at Gallipoli, the 27th Battalion occupied positions at Russell's Top, near the Neck, the site of the ill-fated charge by the 3rd Light Horse Brigade in early August. The battalion was subjected to almost constant shelling and rifle fire, and casualties were constant. On the 8th of October, Macdonald's Gallipoli campaign came to an end when he was wounded in the arm by shrapnel. He was evacuated to Malta, where he spent the remainder of the year. He was sent back to Egypt in early January and rejoined his battalion. Macdonald was promoted to Lance Corporal in February and travelled with his battalion to France in March. After a brief period in the trenches in the nursery sector near Armentières, the battalion was sent south to the Somme. On the 28th of July, it took part in the Battle of Pozières, once a small village, but now a lunar landscape of shell holes and brick dust. Macdonald was wounded for a second time on the 4th of August, when he was shot in the right shoulder. He was evacuated to England and sent to the Ontario Military Hospital in Kent. After recovering from his wounds, he was transferred to the 70th Battalion, part of the AIF's short-lived attempt to raise a 6th Infantry Division. He spent much of 1917 in training, attending courses, and preparing to return to France. His mother, Nora, had also travelled to England and taken lodgings at the seaside town of Brighton. Roderick's brother, Alexander, who had served with the 10th Battalion on Gallipoli, was also in England, attached to another battalion in the 6th Division. Nora and her sons would have been able to see each other during periods of leave. The 6th Division, which had largely existed only on paper, was disbanded in September 1917, and in late October, Macdonald returned to the 27th Battalion. By this stage, it was in rest positions, having been involved in the 3rd Ypres campaign. Less than a week after rejoining his battalion, Macdonald, now a corporal, transferred to the 10th Battalion to serve with his brother, who had also returned to the Western Front. The 10th Battalion took part in stemming the tide of the German Spring Offensive in March and April 1918. The following months were spent near Strzelecka, close to the Belgian border. A feature of this part of the war were peaceful penetration raids in which prisoners were taken and territory was gained with few casualties. The 10th Battalion were particularly adept to this form of warfare. On the night of 29th to 30th July 1918, the battalion took part in an attack on Marie. The attack began a little after midnight. 2 companies, consisting of 160 men, assaulted Marie and quickly captured the objective, along with a swag of German prisoners. The 10th Battalion's war diary recorded its success, stating, "Marie taken, our casualties very slight. However, of the 160 Australians who had taken part, 35 of them became casualties." Among the dead was Corporal Roderick Macdonald. His body was recovered and laid to rest in the Utestana Communal Sanitary Extension in Bayeux, France. He was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal Roderick Francis Macdonald, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's redevelopment project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.